Welcome to a game between therxyy here in red, starting with a recon commander and a cloakbot factory, and going against an engineer commander and a cloakbot factory. So, therxyy was standing in this replay and he wondered where he went wrong. He was going for some Reavers and Ronins and quite a bit of eco in this game. So, yeah, let's see how it goes. Yeah, so it looks like, yeah, both players are fairly similar in the start. therxyy goes for a earlier glaive here, and Fealthas is going for a earlier conjurer, followed up with glaives. Glaives are pretty good on this map, even though their trajectories might be somewhat limited. They still have a lot of room to trap spiders and such, so it isn't quite always dominated by spiders. So we can see here that, yeah, therxyy is getting, one glaive and one metal extractor. There's some nice duking there, but he didn't have time to retreat and repair with his glaive. Meanwhile, yeah, so that was a decent trade. Gonna cut off some economy there. The income is pretty balanced. So therxyy is jumping down here with his commander and expanding here. That's a decent choice. Some players like to push for this super mechs because, yeah, this mechs is worth quite a bit. Not quite twice as much as other mechs, but almost twice as much. So some players like to push for this mechs and try to control the center of the map. Basically, in a situation like this, when there's just like bots, there's basically kind of 3 lanes that you have to protect. The middle lane, it's kind of easy to protect, but you can also push from it if you control it. But you can also, yeah, and then there's this high ground that you can raid from and go down here, yeah, or here. So yeah, there's some choices, but basically it's 3 lanes in the middle that kind of branches off into raiding. So yeah. And therxyy is balancing his economy pretty well. The wind is high right now, so that means he's gonna have some surplus energy from these wind generators. Making a radar there is pretty good on the high ground there because, yeah, otherwise it might be blocked by the terrain here. So making a radar tower there or there, that's a pretty good choice. So because if you build it on the low ground like here, then it's not going to be able to see on top of the field. So yeah, that way he was able to scout and mirror the movement of these claves, and they can't really get anything done. And yeah, Fealthas is kind of also being a bit careful with his expansion, so they're staying even for now. Yeah, this is probably the time to start making more expanding cons. And here we look at a potentially important engagement. This is good. When the commander is out of position, you can just go in and kill a lone lotus or like that and just trade a bit of health. Now in this situation, if he knows, he should see on the radar that there's probably no units here. So this is a dangerous situation for Fealthas. Like, just 3 extra glaives is gonna mean, yeah, they're gonna deal some damage and the commander is not gonna be able to focus down the glaives here. So that's a pretty decent engagement. What, will we be able to jump away in time? And they get a calm for the loss of 3 glaives, and he kills. Yeah. So after all, it was a pretty even exchange after all. Now if he could just follow up and kill this mechs, that would be good. But he's trying to raid over here instead. And he missed that mechs and that conjurer. So yeah, that's gonna be a bit. Yeah, this Lotus turret is making it hard to maneuver around these glaives. Yeah, so that was, but now he spots this metal extractor and kills it. So yeah, it was a pretty even engagement after that. And yeah, Fealthas is probably maybe 1 mex ahead after he killed that mex. But now therxyy loses 3 more glaives, no, 1 more glaive just. So yeah. In this situation, you gotta be careful. You wanna try to keep the enemy glaives at home while you're trying to raid. So therxyy is doing a decent job at that. But you also wanna avoid losing glaives like that. Taking this position, it is a bit closer to Fealthas, so taking this position and reclaiming this Rex will be hard for either player. Like, you probably wanna take these mexes first before you go to take this high ground. Oh, nice raid there, getting that mex finally. Yeah, and will this Toll Lotus turret be enough to hold them off? Kinda. So we'll look at the total value here. Fealthas is a bit ahead due to his expansion here. And yeah, the metal income is pretty even. So yeah, so therxyy is getting ahead here. Doing some cheeky raiding here. Maybe he can get a mix. Yeah, probably. Will he have time to... No. Oh, he didn't quite get a mix. Yeah, it looks like Fealthas is making quite a bit of build power, while therxyy, yeah, at this point, he should be making more build power, I think. He has an idle constructor here. It's kind of important since he only has 2, he really needs to use them. And with this much income, you need to start like considering making a plate or a caretaker next to the factory, or you're gonna start accessing metal soon. So yeah, having this idle con is kind of bad. Going for your thermal in this situation, I would not recommend. You're pretty steady on income. And yeah, so yes, I mean, this is a pretty good hill for wind, so yes, expanding with wind there is probably the preferable way here. Because having to spend 500 metal just to make this geothermal before you actually start to get an income, yeah, you should probably try to grab these mexes first. Yeah, because you have so little build power, but now we're expanding with a plate, that's good. Meanwhile, you're trying to poke and raid, and you're seeing that enemy hasn't taken this position. That's, yeah, since you also have a check on this expansion, that means you should have a pretty good idea that you're actually out ecoing the enemy at this point, and you're getting a lot of, yeah, you're getting ahead in value, so to speak. Although, yeah. It doesn't quite show up in the metal total value now. Yeah. Yeah, so now the enemy is starting to move out with a Reaver. If the Reaver is out of position like this, you could probably overrun it with just glaives when the enemy glaives are far away and kill it without making cost. If you have a good surround lattice spread and see that enemy glaives are far behind, but you don't have any radar, so that's a hard choice to make because there could be a lot of glaze just behind this Reaver, and now there's a lot of raiders nearby, so yeah, overrunning that Reaver might be hard now. Without radar, that's a decision that it's a risky decision to make to go in against such a Reaver, because there might be more Reavers behind it, or there might be a lot of glaze behind it, like it is now. So yeah, killing that Reaver now is a hard thing to do. But you're expanding with your one con, that's good. You could, if you had built some conjurers earlier, you could have been expanding here as well in order to taking these mexes. But yeah, you just sent the commander there. And your geothermal has finished, and yeah, now you have quite a bit of energy even though the wind is low, so I guess it's a decent choice considering that you were only relying on wind on the situations. Like if we check the winds here, even the wind just turned up again. Okay, I didn't check it when they were minimum, but even with minimum value, it's 0.5, they're still gonna make like 19 still. Okay, 10 energy at minimum value. Okay, that's kind of bad. So yeah, making that geothermal is not that bad of a choice in this situation since you were only relying on wind energy income. So I kind of take that back. And you're still managing to contain the enemy, and yeah, you're out expanding the enemy, basically. Your enemy is just barely surplus in energy. So yeah. Going for, I don't really like going for energy pylons because, yeah, I don't think that energy pylons are uh, that good. Like, for example, an energy pylon. Oh, nice there! You managed to kill 2 reavers with no losses. That's a good trade. That's the thing, like a retreating reaver will have the advantage, and if you go two versus one, yeah, that's a good trade. In these situations, you can even push. You probably don't know what enemy has on the other side of this hill, but yeah, you could definitely push with these 3 reavers here. And you're doing that. And you're leading with the glaives. Do you need to do that? Your exchange, yeah, it was kind of decent, but yeah. It was probably a pretty even exchange. And here comes a flank of reavers, and you probably didn't see that on radar. Meanwhile, your reavers were kind of surrounded. No biggie. Yeah. Anyway, now you're making these energy pylons, which I think is a bit too early, or rather, on this map, I'm not sure you should ever make energy pylons because you can use wind instead. It might feel like wind energy generators, like pylons, are harder to uh, like. I can pause the game here, and looks like this glaive is gonna get a kill. Like if you compare the energy cost, the cost of like, let's see here. Say you want to go from here, then you need like 7 wind generators about. So connecting that 7 wind generators, that's how much metal? That's about that's about 245 metal, but they're also giving income, which pylon doesn't do, and you barely have enough. So yeah, I would recommend instead you would just connect these with winds instead. Maybe one on the front line, just because you feel it's more risky. Also, pylons are kind of explosive, so glaives are gonna struggle to destroy them for cost. But now you also have a disconnected pylon here. Yeah, and it's not doing anything. So yeah, those could be connected with winds. But yeah, let's see. And you also spent 400 metal here over here, and you overrun this river here. That's good. Yeah, you Fealthas is getting ahead in well the kill though. So yeah, you spent 400 metal on these energy pylons, and they're not doing a thing. So that's a bit of a waste. So So if we look at the total value, you're pulling ahead, which is good. Uh, I'm still a bit like you could probably have been trying to make a push for this with the reavers or something. But yeah, holding this position would be really good because if you just can, this position is pretty easy to defend with a few Lotus turrets and just pushing back the enemy from where they can if you try to push up here, and having a radar here so you see if the enemy is trying to move up this hill, then you can easily put your glaives in position here in time. And if you have the glaives on high ground, they're gonna get extended range, which makes it even harder for the enemy to get up the hill. So yeah, going up this hill, this steep hill, that's quite a challenge, really. And you can easily, if you have a radar or just a glaive here or something, or a turret to see when it's coming, yeah, you have a lot of time to react and decide if you want to defend or not. And you're building a radar then, that's good. So should you be pushing against this? You could have been pushing against this. How many reavers? Maybe you feel you don't want to leave. Yeah, you don't have a radar in the middle here, like him radar back here or radar up here would have been nice, or even maybe a radar here. Then you can see the enemy, if the enemy is coming through the center. Now you can't really see if the enemy is coming through the center, which gives kind of a radar blind spot there. So yeah, your army definitely matches Fealthas value here. And if you had some more intel on these, maybe running a glaive forward to see what they have, you could probably be pushing here. Like this is like value 2,300. Yeah, a bit more. So it's about even. And now you're starting to engage the enemy with Ronins, and yeah, this was probably a lame duck session. Um, in a situation like this, you can consider making a retreat, like you set the units to auto retreat at a certain health. Like there's this retreat, automatic retreat. Yeah, and you probably don't want to let the enemy in up with Ronins here. Like you can probably prevent it. Like if you build Lotus turret here, so they can reach the crest of the hill, like one there, the Ronins are gonna struggle to come up, and you can move in. You can move in Reavers here, and when they're standing here, they're basically occluded by the hill there, so they're basically safe from Ronin fire. So you kind of I don't think you chose the optimal position here when you choose to walk back here. I would rather like get up a stinger, because if you get a stinger, that's pretty safe. And especially if the enemies want to use slings against a high range stinger like this, yeah, they're not gonna have a lot of leeway to like shoot at the stinger. And you can move your Ronins forward or your Reavers forward, and you can put your Reavers on the before the crest of the hill. Meanwhile, pushing up here, and you're seeming to doing pretty well there. So yeah, what you could do is you put the Reavers here, and if they take some fire, you pull them back, and the enemy will be in range of the Stinger or the Lotus turret, and the enemy can't fire from down here, because yeah, the hill is in the way. So that's a thing you can do to abuse the height advantage. Now you should be seeing this army coming up the hill, and you're respawning in kind and sending some defense here. And it looks like, for some reason, Fealthas is pulling ahead in the cavalry kills. I'm not sure if it's the Reavers dying here on the front line. Like, the Reavers aren't really doing anything here on the front line. What you can do is you can set them to, like, auto-retreat. If you enable that, I think you have to enable the setting for auto-retreat, and then they will retreat. You can set them to, like, 30 or 60%, and then you set the command just back here, and then the Reavers will automatically retreat, and since their region is so good, they might go just beyond here and then go back again. And then they're ready to take a few more shots of the running shots and then go back again. And that's a way that you can kinda like, that's a way that you can kinda use your warriors, your Reavers more cost effectively. But I'm trying to see where is Fealthas going this much ahead. Like if you check like he evened the advantage that you had, and the army values are now even, and the value lost. Yeah, I kind of missed where that happened. Like you were really pulling ahead, like in the value lost. Why did you lose so badly up here? Did you have your Ronins on hold fire or something? Yeah, that's kind of weird. Like the enemy really pulled ahead there. You're having in this situation, like I would probably recommend to do as you do and have your units with not hold position, because then it will automatically skirmish. But suddenly you just lost all the value that you had for, yeah. And I'm not quite sure why you lost so much value. Like if you have the build power, you can even have like retreat zones behind, or even send them all the way to the base. But usually I wouldn't recommend that. Morphing to Geo, yeah, that's might work on this map, but you're also gonna like stop your what do you call it? You're gonna stop your overdrive. And you asked about the transition. Like I think air is decent on this map. A firewalker transition is probably better. But if we check the Valgaf, that happened way earlier than the Phoenixes hit the field. Yeah. And here we're trying to countercharge with the glaives, but Fealthas has Reavers in position here. But yeah, the enemy just pulled ahead there, even though they had more value there. Yeah, I think I actually have to check this again. I'm gonna restart the replay to see why Fealthas actually pulled ahead so much in the value there. So yeah, basically, I think the top here was crucial. I'm not sure exactly what happened. You had a lot of Reavers. Did the Reavers just die? Was that where the enemy was getting ahead? And you had slight advantage here in numbers and mass, but that was only slight. Like pushing, you could probably have pushed, but it might have been risky to get surrounded if you don't know exactly what an enemy has there. And you also held the high ground, so I think you could have defended the high ground if you just wanted to defend more easily, like just by building a stinger or some lotus turret, like here, so they can just reach the crest of the hill, not quite further than that. So yeah. So the enemy is starting to pull ahead here in the attrition there. So we check the total value, you're still quite a bit ahead, your army is still ahead. But yeah, you're losing quite a bit more here. Let's see, you have, this is basically, yeah, the enemy has a bit more Ronins up here. And you have a few Reavers here that are not doing anything right now. So if we check the, like, where we have, that's not a lot of Reavers. That's kind of a lot of Reavers. Yeah, that's not doing anything right now. You probably want a few, like 3, 4 Reavers here to protect, but yeah, you have like 6. That's not a big issue. Yeah. So let's look at disengagement. You're kind of leading with the glaives. And yeah, and this is a bit of, yeah, it requires a bit of attention because you don't want to run into the Reavers here. You run into them a bit, yeah, a bit there. Meanwhile, are you gonna push against this position? Fealthas just has a few Ronins here, a Reaver up there. You have some Ronins here. Yeah. So yeah, let's check the value graph here. You're starting to lose value right about here. I guess there were those glaives that you lost. And now you're trying to push in here. Like, if you look at the material superiority here, like... it's not that big. You lost the rune in there. Now you're trying to push, and the Reavers are dying. Against the Ronins, kinda. What's this waypoint? That waypoint might be better. Oh, this is a cluster. Uh, this kind of cluster is pretty bad for Ronins. They might even hit each other in the... Oh, one shot kills two Ronins there. Yeah, you bunched up a little bit too much. Like, I'm not even sure that Fealthas is micro in this. But yeah, this is kind of where it's getting value. Yeah. Your, your micro is actually hurting yourself here. Yeah, you're bunching up too much here. You were bunching up too much, and now you're losing more value than your enemy. Like, yeah. The devil is in the details. Oh, and now we ran a few glaives too far ahead. Yeah. Yeah, and now, yeah. Yeah, and the enemy's equalizing value here. These units got separated. The Reavers, yeah, I guess Fealthas is pretty good at keeping his Reaver alive. I'm not sure if he lost any. Did he lose any? He lost one there. Okay, I lost one there. But you're losing your Reavers there. And now you're giving... Yeah, you're losing here. I'm not sure you lost that much here, but yeah, on this position you're losing a lot. Like, this concave is really wide versus your much smaller concave. And then you also kind of like mismanaged it and bunched up a few times. Yeah. Kind of forgot to connect your override. But yeah, you lost so much value up here, I think, for first and foremost. And some glaives up here. Yeah, this is really small. Many small mistakes that just stacked up, I think. Let's see here. Your metal overdrive has been decently successful. And your economy value, you spent a bit more on economy as well, yeah. I think those energy pylons are questionable. Like, if you had made this geothermal Amoho earlier, should you have done Amoho earlier? Probably risky, since that was your only reliable source of income. So yeah, probably not a good idea to have morphed that earlier, so since that is your only reliable source of energy. Yeah. And here we have a situation where, like, there's one Ronin and a Picket against a Reaver that's low on health. Oh, and that's even a friendly fire event. Yeah. That's... yeah, I think you should be careful and do some more manual spreading with the Ronins much more. And probably try to keep your Reavers on retreat, so they automatically retreat when they're low in health. Because you want them around if the enemy tries to make a glaive counter charge, basically. Yeah. It's also a thing to consider is to mix in a few Lotus turrets or pickets among them, because that's harder to push against. Like, if there's a bunch of Ronins dancing around and your Ronins fire at the enemy Ronins, they're gonna miss quite a lot, and the Lotus turrets are not going to take as much fire and get more time to fire as well. So I don't think that played a huge role in this game, but it makes pushing against even if it's just 3 Lotus turrets and like 2 pickets like this, it makes it much harder to push against when there's Ronins and Reavers dancing in front of them and distracting your Ronins. Like if you want to go in with Ronins and focus fire these Lotus turrets, yeah, it's kind of hard. If you, like that's probably a thing that why you wanna get like 1 or 2, 3, a few things here. So maybe you can send if you're like holding this position like you were standing like here, and you have radar, you can just target. You can put the slings here, target the enemy turrets, and they will kill them pretty easily when there's just a few of them like there, and then you can push on more easily, or maybe even make your own defenses behind your units. So yeah, I mean, making some Lotus turrets or pickets, or maybe even a Stinger, makes this position so much easier to hold, especially when you're going like when it's downhill, because the slings are gonna struggle to fire uphill. Like if you put the Stinger here, they're gonna have to expose themselves, and you can put your Reavers right here, and they can protect this crest of the hill, because yeah, they won't be fired by the enemy Romans from down here if you're careful and watch them and retreat them at the time when they take damage. So yeah. So yeah, it looked like there were many small things that made you lose so much more value than your enemy, basically. Like if you check the value kill, I guess it's kind of similar. Yeah. I think this is an indication as well, like you lost 16,500 value. Fealthas, while you only killed, Fealthas only killed 13,000, or maybe that was a commander as well. Yeah, I guess Fealthas didn't get the value of the commander here. I guess that's one reason. Yeah. But I saw some friendly incidents between the Ronins. So it's a thing, I think you micro them a bit wrong. It's better to like just spread them out in a line and let them handle themselves in a wide arc. And then you have to watch them every now and then and try to make their arc wider. And the Reavers, they're gonna take a lot of like manual micro to keep alive. So it's probably to just set them to auto retreat and you can set a retreat zone like up here, and then you put it down on the map. So, and then then they're gonna walk behind a bit. You can set the Ronins to retreat at like 30 or 60% as well if you want. But if you don't have any frontline repair power, they're gonna take a really long time to walk back and get repaired. Or yeah, they're just gonna stay there. So you probably want them in the fight for longer. So yeah. So you can probably wanna have some like turrets behind your units to make it harder for them to push. And watch out for bunching up like you did a few times here against a much wider arc of the enemy Ronins, basically. Because then your Ronins are even gonna fire at your own units when they're bunched up like that. Because they keep moving in front of each other and stuff like that. So yeah, I would say you lost this due to some positioning errors and not spreading out your units far enough. So small things like that can decide a match. GG, good luck and have fun.